Hi, it's Lisa with Queen Bee Creations, and I'm here with today's live. And we're going to be playing around with the Horse and Sleigh bundle. This is something from our online exclusives. So it's not featured in any of our catalogs. It's only available on the website, or if you call me up and place your order with me. We're going to be creating an envelope flap card. And what that means is it has this kind of flap that looks like an envelope, and it's going to open this direction. And the little flap is just going to tuck behind the horse and sleigh, which is on with dimensionals. So a really fun card. I've done it twice now because I did it with my team yesterday. So this has got a gray horse. And I've also done one for our customer appreciation PDF that's going to have a polar bear on it. So this can be done with lots of different things. And I think you're really going to love this fold. So I was a little bit late because I was uploading that thing I promised to you. I was working on last week the sponge dauber box. I need to switch cameras. And so this is a box I've had for years and years, and it had an insert in it, but the colors changed when we had our color refresh. And so I created a new one that I have on the inside here. Now mine is printed out in color and it's been laminated, but I've uploaded one for you guys that's free. It's a free download you can pull off of my website. It doesn't cost anything to just print it out yourself. If you need me to laminate it, I'm going to have to charge you a couple dollars because they charge me postage. But it's a fun free download if you want that, or it's available in laminated. Just, I need you to cover my postage and ink. But just another free tool for you guys out of my store. Here is our card. We're going to do this in some different colors. This is done in Night of Navy, but this paper is just so gorgeous. This is our one horse open sleigh paper, and it's got all of these pretty patterns, and I really liked this one, but it didn't work with the Night of Navy. We needed to have different colors. So I have chosen a different base. Oh, I see. I had them all in here flip-flopped to show both sides. That's why they're funky. Okay, I get it. I was being organized. Who knew, right? So gorgeous paper, kind of photorealistic on one side, sort of. It's like almost a watercolor, I guess. It looks very real to me. I suppose it's technically watercolor, but it's so pretty. And then the other side is very basic, generic patterns that can be used for almost anything. But like I said, I chose to work with this one this time. So using the colors out of this, I could have gone with, pecan pie. It's done in Pool Party. This is probably a Mossy Meadow, Old Olive kind of thing. But I chose the Pool Party. So my base is Pool Party. And this is just one piece that is 4 inches, 4¼ by 5½. Can't quite see my measuring thing, huh? Okay, so it's just a piece of cardstock. It's not folded over. It is just all by itself. That's just going to be my base. And then I have another piece. This piece is going to look like a layer. It's going to look like a 4 by 5¼ but technically it's 8 by 5¼ scored at 4. That's how my card's going to open. And then this will just adhere right on the front. So I cut this exactly the same size. This is 4 by 5¼ And then this piece here is 3¾ by 3¾ This is going to be our flap. Now I took it and I put it in the trimmer and I put it in point to point and then scored. Now, once it's scored, you can just go ahead and adhere this to your card. I was getting rid of bulk. I don't know. When I made my card, I put the point on the 1/2 inch mark and just cut this off. Now it's just plain cardstock. It probably doesn't matter. If you were doing a flap in, say, foil or glimmer paper or something where the paper was more expensive, saving that little scrap, you know, it might actually save you money. You could probably make some other little pieces you could punch out of this. So you can also make your flap out of designer series paper. With this paper, because the fronts they were directional, number one. So when I turn it kink-eyed, it's not gonna be straight. And then one side was very patterned and one side wasn't. So it didn't really work to use designer series paper with this one. But if you did have some that was possibly non-directional or pretty generic, the flap can be designer series paper. Mine's cardstock. On this one, because it was Night of Navy, it's very dark. I went ahead and I heat embossed my sentiment across the front. So this is stamped in, well, first of all, I went over it with the embossing buddy. That was very important because otherwise I'm going to have little white flecks everywhere. And then I stamped in Versamark, put white powder over it, tapped off the excess, and heated it with a heat tool to melt it. So now it's got a raised effect. It's very classy. I like it, and it pops very well because of the color difference. This one, I don't know. I think I'm going to stamp in Early Espresso. I think Pecan Pie might be a little too light. Same with Pool Party, Mossy Meadow, I don't know. There's choices. When I need something with more contrast, I might suggest using black or a dark gray. In this case, I'm using Early Espresso. It's just another neutral. So it's not going to distract from the other colors that are used in my card. So I'm just going to align this. And there we go. And then I've got a little more stamping for the inside. Oh, I need this out because we're going to do that tree. So on the inside now, I want my cut to be on top and the fold at the bottom. That's going to feel a little bit backwards, but you'll see when the card goes together why we're doing that. So going to stamp my tree on one side in Early Espresso. I do my sentiment in the middle in Pool Party. And then I'm going to do the little rabbit in Smoky Slate. So I'm just creating a little scene on the inside of my card that will coordinate with the outside of the card. Then we're going to take this piece, which, like I said, could have the whole rest of the triangle on it if you needed to. But we're going to adhere that on our top flap before we adhere it to our base. No, good. Thank you, Wendy, for answering that question. Embossing does hold up very well in the mail. And for those of you putting in hashtag prize patrol, you might just find out, because somebody will be chosen to win today's card. And you can choose if you want the Night of Navy version or the Pool Party version. Now you'll notice I have a little mark out here. That's why I flipped it inside out, because I'm going to cover that up with designer series paper so it'll hide the little smudge. And I'm doing liquid glue because I need it to be exact, so I wanted some wiggle time, because this will flush up to all the edges and fit exactly. So if I needed to wiggle it a little, the liquid glue will help me out with that. There's a little hair on the back where it's a little bit longer, and that's okay. I'd rather have it a little longer than a little short, because when it's longer, I can just come in with some snips and just snip off the excess. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing the blades up against the fold and then just doing little bitty snips. So I'm not opening them up enough to actually grab the fold. I'm just using it as a kind of wall to keep me straight. And that allows me to cut off really teeny little extra strips. And then after we've done that, then we're ready to go ahead and adhere it to our card. And like I said, it's the same size as a layer. So I'm just going to be centering this in here as if it was a layer. So I have my border all the way around. I had scored this paper to be a card base at first and then decided to use this. So I have a little bit of fuzz on the edge from the score line. So sometimes that happens if you cut on a score, and sometimes it happens if your blade's a little dull or if you have some extra goop in the track of your trimmer. But keep either a small piece of sandpaper or a fingernail file nearby, and then you can just trim those, sand that off, and then you won't have that fuzzy edge anymore. So now we're ready for our focal point. So I need something that's going to be about that long. And I know I have to keep it within 3 inches because I want to use my little Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So I'm using basic gray this time. Here I had used Memento Black. Either one works. This is just a little softer. So very similar, just a little softer because I felt this was softer. But black works too. They're both water-based ink, which is the important thing when we're using our Stampin' blends. We want to make sure that whatever ink we're using is the opposite of the marker we're using. So since our markers are alcohol-based, we want the ink to be water-based. Now in reverse, if we were using our regular Stampin' Write markers, or if we were going to be using watercoloring, anything that was a water base with the coloring aspect, then you want an alcohol-based ink, which would be the StazOn Black. So opposites of ink and coloring medium. I'm going to try to color this quickly. Not having to pick out what colors I'm using should help this go along if I keep it the same. I was very excited. I know I've mentioned to you guys my friend from Australia, Alyssa Tilsner. She is fabulous with blends, and she has actually started a group called Blends and Beyond. and she's been sharing lots of tips on how to color and get the most out of your Stampin' Blends markers. And she created a video that was fabulous because I've ruined a few of my tips. This one I actually tried to cut with scissors. There was a little extra little fuzz on the edge, and I tried to cut it and the thing like exploded. But she figured out, she ordered on Amazon several different nibs for other alcohol-based markers and found out that we can actually indeed replace the nibs on these markers. Of course, it's not something Stampin' Up, endorses, and they don't recommend. They want you to buy the new marker. And when it runs out of ink, absolutely buy the new marker. But if it has not yet run out of ink, I mean, you don't want to throw it away. So the fact that she found nibs that will work and replace, this is a new marker, that's why I have a better nib, because I did replace the markers, but I don't want to do away with all of the ink that's left in this barrel. So that was fun, knowledgeable information. And I'm going to do a video on it as well, since she's in Australia and I'm in the US. We often tag team on things such as our customer appreciation PDF. Every month I do 3 tutorials and she does 3 tutorials. And then anybody who places an order with us gets that free tutorial for the month. So it's just kind of a thank you for customers for being loyal and shopping with us. So let's see, I think I'm going to do this horse in Smoky Slate. I'm using the darker first, and I'm coloring in the shadowed areas. And rather than going straight down on the point, I'm flicking a little bit. And then I'm going to go back and add the light after. And then Alyssa recommends that you go over it twice. That the first time you're just kind of laying down color, and the second time you're actually doing your blending. And what that is it's getting it really wet, because when the inks are wet is when they truly blend, is they kind of bleed together, which a lot of times, we were told we don't want our inks to blend or to bleed, but that's how the Stampin' Blends work. Oh, yeah. Thank you for someone correcting the Prize Patrol. The spelling, it has to be correct. The thing is very picky. So I appreciate that you guys check in on each other and keep up with those things, because when I'm busy creating my card and talking, sometimes it's hard to keep up with the chat because it's on the other table. You can see this nib's getting a little funny. Now this horse is not very big. If you are coloring a larger image, like say you had a very large flower or something, the recommendation is that you would do maybe one part of the flower at a time, maybe a few petals, and then move on and do a few more petals, because you don't want the ink to dry in between. As I was saying, when it's wet is when it's truly going to blend, and that's what we're looking for. So you can see here that I have not totally blended this out yet. So I'm going to add a little more color. And then a little more light. Again, using the small circles will often help. because that kind of drags it around. You're going to want the ink to bleed all the way through. Now, if you have fears of it going too dark, that's what the color lifter is for. The color lifter will help you lighten certain areas up and accent things, and it will also help pull you back inside the lines. If you have colored outside the lines, you can use the color lifter. You would start away from your image and push into it, so you're pushing the color back to where you want it to be. So that's kind of fun to know that it can be corrected. Now on this, it's probably not going to be too bad if I did go outside the lines, because it's going to be die cut and we will cut that off. So it won't be as big of a deal. But sometimes it is. Okay. So now you can see that it's blending a lot better. My light marker is going a little dry. It's probably time for me to order a new one. But you see what I mean about how the more we went over it, the more it blended. And see, it's going all the way through to the back side. So if it's not quite blending, the idea is you just need to start laying down more color. Okay, almost done. Just have our little people. So I'm going to come in with the ivory and do the hands and faces. I thought maybe this thing in her lap, this round thing, maybe was a muff, like one of those mink things that you stuff your hands into. I'm not sure. There were a lot of different little lines. Obviously, I can make out their jackets and hats, and I know those are blankets, but I don't know all of what's going on down here. Since the artist didn't tell us, we're just leaving it up to our imaginations and just coloring it in. Nobody's going to complain and say you colored it wrong. That was Night of Navy. This is Old Olive. Should probably use a little pool party since that's what's going on back there. And we'll do that last one in pecan pie, since that's what our house is doing back there. Okay, now we're ready to die cut. So I'm going to bring in the mini cut and emboss machine. Now I'm going to use just the outline die, but you can also cut this piece right here. This is designed to cut out something that would fit onto the sleigh right there. So if you wanted to give an accent of gold, silver, maybe some glimmer paper, you can do the little swoop of the sleigh, and you can also do the blades along the bottom. So you could do these Ooh, focus. Come on. You could do these in foil or glimmer paper, like I said, and have some accents that would layer up. But we're keeping it simple today, and we're just going to cut the outline. You want to make sure that you are placing that skinny little piece of the sleigh into there. So you want to make sure that's in the right spot. And then I kind of line up his ears over here. And I figure if I have his ears up here and the sleigh down there, that's going to give me my best chance of getting the cut straight. Now, if I was worried about this moving around when I added the other layer, you may want to use a Post-it note or a piece of washi tape to hold the die to the paper while we run it through. There we go. I think we did okay. Now, like I said, we're going to use this as my piece that's going to hold the flap closed. Of course, we want it good and burnished. So I can do a little more of that. But I also want it to tuck. So I want to keep an eye at where this is going to hit. So I want it high enough that there's going to be something for it to tuck into, because obviously it being way down here and that not reaching isn't going to do us any good. Ginger said she used to have a white muff and Angora earmuffs when she was young. Sounds cool. Wendy said her sister had a white muff. Oh, fun. Okay, so like I said, we want to make sure we're positioning it in the right area, and we want to make sure that we are not sticking a dimensional anywhere where it's going to interfere. Because this is mostly hitting the reins, I'm not too concerned about it on this one. I did have to be very careful when I was doing the bear, since this does tuck in there. Basically, I had to know that I was not putting any kind of dimensional right in the middle here. So I have dimensionals on his head, his butt, and then kind of down on his legs. I used a mix of the mini and the regular size, but just keeping that area clear. This bear I colored in by just doing the edges in smoky slate, and then I went over it with the color lifter to lighten it a little. The gray didn't work so well. One of my teammates did it with either Balmy Blue or Pool Party, and it blended a lot better for that. No, the pens, Ginger's asking if the pens squeak. Yes, indeed, they do. So that is not a problem. They are meant, I don't know if they're meant to squeak, but my pens always squeak. Especially when they were new. It seems like they squeaked a little more when they were newer. Just checking to see if there were any other questions. Beth said she's watching poolside. Lucky her. Joanne said she has replaced her nibs. Yes. And then, yeah, I think Copic or Ranger comes out with a blending solution, and it's different than just isopropyl alcohol. Although if you do use that, I have seen people say you have to use like the 90%. It's the stronger one, not the 70%. But if you get the one that's designed for alcohol markers, that's even better. Okay. So let's go ahead and put some dimensionals on here. So I know I'm safe at either end because that's not going to interfere with my flap at all. And we figured the flap might hit his tail a little, so I'm not going to put a dimensional back there. Sorry, the dogs are barking. I don't know what's going on upstairs. Maybe the neighbor came home and has the nerve to be in his own driveway, right? Okay, so there we go. There is our envelope flap card in Pool Party and in Night of Navy. Now this one, you'll notice I have it matted, and I really like it. I think it's very cool. It stands out more than this does. This really makes it pop. But the funny thing is, I didn't do this on purpose initially. The idea was that I had stamped last thing, like this was the last thing I stamped, and it smudged a little. And I thought, oh no, I don't want to trash the whole card because my sentiment's all messed up. So I stamped it on scrap paper and then matted it in the Night of Navy and then glued it over the top of my messed up sentiment. So it ended up working out really well. I might decide that this one's not quite straight enough for me. It seems to tilt a little. Maybe I'll put one over that. Who knows? So there is our envelope flap cards. And remember, I did add, I told everybody who came on early, I added a free download onto my website. You can get the digital version of this. Oh, I don't have, there's a black and white one too, where I did not put the colors in there. It's just all the circles, and then the words are written in, I think, basic gray. So if you did not want to use print in color, use up all your color ink, or if, I don't know, you only had a black and white printer, it can still be printed, and you can read all the words on it. If you want it laminated like this, I just ask a couple dollars that, you'll cover my postage and ink for me printing it and the laminating material. But for free, you can go download just the digital version and you can print your own. So there's the link. I added it in the comments. I'll put it in the description of the video for our replay warriors. And I have Thursday's project because I've actually done Thursday's project and the next 4 for the 2 weeks that I'm going to be gone. I'm going to have my video go off as if I'm live, but I'm actually going to be on a cruise in Hawaii. So exciting news that I get to be on vacation and you guys don't miss out on any of my lives. This will be Thursday of this week, so just 3 days from now. It's a foldable card. I suppose we could find a larger envelope that this could go into or make our own envelope. But I like the idea of using it just to set on a mantle or, display. You could even put some ribbon around the top and maybe put a bow up here. But I think it'd make a really pretty display piece. And a illuminated candle goes on the inside. Oops. Alexa, turn off the office lights. There we go. My camera is actually doing a good job of lighting up my desk, despite I turned off the lights. But you can see how the tea light in there gives a little glow. So that will be Thursday's project. So Alexa, turn the office lights on. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you back here on Thursday. to play with the horse and sleigh once again. Let's do our spin. Let me put that up there. Silly dogs. Bark, bark, bark. Here we go. Add this one, remove this one, and we're ready to spin. Has everybody put in hashtag prize patrol? That's how you get entered into the drawing to win today's card. And then after it finds a winner for us, I'm going to need that person to go to my website, and then up there in the address bar. Oh, congratulations, Joanne. You're going to want to go to queenbeecreations.net. That is my website address. And then up in the address bar, you're actually going to type in /prize patrol. And then you will be directed to a Google form where you will give me your address for where you want the card mailed to. And I will get that out in the mail before I leave on my trip. So congratulations, Joanne. And I will see the rest of you all back here on Thursday for our next live. Thanks. Bye.